Welcome to yet another day of How to ABX. Today is 10/10/2023, and it is Paralyze season. Today is, I think, Villain, right? Universal Villain. Yes, it's Universal Villain Day, and we'll be running it with Jean Grey. I have Jean Grey with a Brilliant Rage. So if you want to stick around afterwards, I'll give you all the details of why I built the team the way I did, and how I have my account built on a whole. Now, with this, before I get into this rotation, I want to point out something really quick. People play the characters differently, and they find different success with different rotations. So experiment with a few different ones before you settle on one. This is how I play Jean. This is how I score the most. I have tried other rotations before. I pretty much spam everything. 5, 3, and 1, if you give them a slight delay, they do a little extra damage, but you want to kind of stick with making sure you're charging up your skills as quickly as possible, and I will instant cancel everything, including the 6. Some people will play her by letting her wings pop on 6. You don't need to do that. The old uniform you did, the new uniform you don't. And honestly, I actually see less of a score when I let her wings pop, even though the score is very, very, very close. I've got a video for that somewhere here on my channel if you want to check that out. Anyway, without further ado, let me go ahead and show you this in action, show you how I play her, and then, yeah, we'll talk about more if you want to stick around afterwards. So let's go ahead and get into that action. And I forgot to turn the sound on because, you know, who wants to just hear me talk? Let's hear some video game sounds. That's probably going to be too loud. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to switch to Jean right away. And I like to do a 4-2-1-3-5. And the reason that I do a 4-2-1-3-5, let me unmute my speakers, that might actually help with the sound, is because when you do 2 and you cancel it in 1 right away, you won't run around. If there are enemies, 2 will take you away from the beast. You won't be able to instantly cancel. I use 7 as soon as it's available. Typically with this spam type of mentality, 2-1, you will see 7 by itself, and then 7 will be ready with 6 the next time it's ready. And like I said, I do instantly cancel that. I do instantly cancel 7, and her score ends up being incredibly high. 2, like I said, will target the closest being, and it will start out with the minions, so it takes you away from the beast if you allow it to be by itself. So that's why I like to cancel it into a 1 to keep me stationary. If there are no minions around, you will stay still. But yeah, as you can see here, it's spam. It is spam for days. Spam for days. So 209, he's going to jump center right about here. I'm going to wait just a second, just to wait till he's in the middle here. And as you can see, I've got several skills that can cancel, so I don't really need to hold on to anything. I do have the striker who can cancel as well, but 2 and 4 is enough. And those cool down quickly enough that I really don't worry about saving skills for striking. The only time I save skills is if he's about to jump center. Because I don't want to start doing a big move and then have that get canceled midway through the move and a lot of that damage be lost. You do have to adapt these rotations, and even with spam, you need to adapt it to what's going on the screen. You can't just straight up spam, and you can't just stick hard to your rotation. You do have to do micro adjustments. That's how you really get good at ABX and ABL. Okay, 116, he's going to be jumping center here. That's okay, and like I said, I've got all these skills that can cancel, so I'm not too worried about getting these Paralyze skills off. Having the green, little green symbol, shape, shield with the thumb up is very helpful. I wish they would have had that way back in the day. That is a nice quality of life addition that they did there. I wasn't able to cancel because I was too far away from the beast. That is a problem. If you can't cancel, it will hurt your score. I still think I'm going to have a pretty high score today, though. I anticipate somewhere in the ballpark of 14 to 15 mil, roughly. Okay, center at last roar is, of course, the 38. It is good to know when your roar timers are. It's basically the same roar timers for every season besides for Paralyze. Paralyze, the second roar is at 116. Every other season, it's 126. And the first roar is always 209 across all seasons. The last roar is always 38. So, going to be a little less today. I know I've got the weird team up here. That usually costs me, but I could have sworn I hit 14 million with her even today. I don't know. I might rerun this later, but yeah, I'm going to be shy of 14. Okay, 13.5. Not terrible, not ideal. This is why I show my account and how it's built, so you can see why I'm scoring what I'm scoring, and if you are not scoring this much or you're scoring more, you can compare accounts. So I always write these down so you can see the progress. 1, 3, 5, 9, 5, 3, 9, 8. And actually, let's go all the way, so that's row 7. I'm just kind of curious really quick. Row 7 on the last group. So the last time I played her, 7/18/2023, I scored 13.8 million. So I can get closer to 14 million. I will rerun this later. So that is actually kind of a low score for me. But talking, I notice my scores will go down if I don't focus on the rotation. And with spam characters, you're going to see variance. So sometimes you want to rerun characters. So let me show you my cards and my swords really quick. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to flash them on the screen. If you want to pause it and look at how it's built, great. I just want to make sure that I provide you with as much information as possible because all of this plays into how well you can do. So there's my cards. Here's my swords. Boom. So there's my swords. Okay. So now that you got all that information, let's go ahead and go to Jean herself, show you how her build is. So, of course, she's a Tier 4 Dark Phoenix Jean. You can use Judgment or Rage. I have a Brilliant Rage on her, and it is Enraged. It doesn't have the best rolls on it. The 1.2% is nice, but the 260 is kind of on the lower side. I wish it was 300 or 280, but it is what it is. Rerolling these is a pain in the butt. She does have a Mythic uniform. She does have her own custom uniform. It does not have an instinct match. I decided to go with this because of the damage dealt it does for villains. I expected it to be a little bit higher on the damage she puts out. So I can't tell if it's because of the tweak I did with my swords or if it's the tweak that I did with her having an artifact that doesn't have an instinct match of what's affecting her the most. So I know it's part of Total Instinct, so maybe not having an instinct match is hurting me. Either way, I thought that might be good, but it's not too far off. Overdrive, everything is maxed out. Skill here, I'm using, as always with all my ABXs, unless I need the Striker to cancel, I use Black Widow. She's Tier 4, she has Rage. Having a built Striker helps, but for some reason Black Widow just does fantastic with ABX. So I highly recommend her as your Striker, regardless of who you're using, unless you need her to, unless you need the Striker to cancel, which is not the case with Jean. I have got Odin's Blessings on her. Everything is amplified. I always amplify everything. She's definitely worthy of Odin's Blessings. She's probably one of the strongest characters in the game. My rank is only 6,000, so she's not the best build in the world, and there's definitely a lot of improvements I can do. I kind of cap all the important stuff. So there's my Jean. That's how she's built. Let's talk about team and alternate options for today, and then we'll wrap up the video. All right, so Arena Alliance Battle Extreme, and I have Hela for the leadership, 60% energy, and I have Fallen Souls Morgan Le Fay. If she doesn't have the Fallen Souls uniform, she doesn't give you this nice, nifty, cool uniform effect, which allows universal type allies, which would be Jean, to get 35% all basic attack and damage dealt 35. So yeah, if she doesn't have this uniform, don't bother using her. I did give her my insight. It's always important to have an insight on one of your characters. Now, with the newest update, you can put an insight on 2 characters and reforge them. Now, the base effect of the insight does not stack, but the reforged ability, if they are different, those do stack. So that's kind of an interesting new bonus, but, you know, who has that many insights? I don't. Other options that you could do for today. So this is 60%. I think that's one of the best leads. I mean, you have like Thanos. You can be a leader. You can play Thanos today. You can do a Thanos team. You can do a Black Bolt team. Black Bolt, if you specifically have his Fallen Souls uniform and he's a Tier 4, Black Bolt does an exceptional job today, but he does not outscore my Jean, so I don't bother using him. But he is a really, really, really good character with a self-lead. Thanos also needs his Tier 4, but likewise, Jean tends to outscore her from what I've noticed. He can also be a self-lead because he does a self-buff, but you want Wise Harvester and a Rage if you're going to be using him in ABX modes. Some people will build him for PvP, but his newest uniform is more set for PvE. Other characters you might consider, Loki is okay. He's a Tier 3 only, but he's just not going to be on the same level as Black Bolt, Thanos, and Jean. Black Bolt, Thanos, and Jean are the top 3 in my opinion, Jean being at the top, and Supergiant does an exceptional job too. So I would do one of them. As far as like who you use for lead and support, you got to look through different characters. I mean, you have different characters like this. So this is Proxima. Proxima with her Dark Obsidian armor actually has a uniform effect with damage dealt. So this might actually be a better option because she's going to increase damage dealt by 35%. So instead of having the 60% bonus to the attack, I might actually run this team. And maybe I'll run it right now just to give you a comparison to see what sort of a comparison on damage and score I can do. But with her uniform, she makes a nice support or leadership option. So if you don't have Fallen Souls Morgan Le Fay, you could do a leadership with someone like Hela, and then you could use Proxima for support as an example. She also works really well as supporting Thanos because I think there's a Dark Order team-up thing for using his deal. Now, there's not really a best option for leadership here, right? Decreased debuff duration, and she doesn't have a self buff, removes all debuffs. So out of all of the options, I would probably use Proxima Midnights because of the ignore target's dodge rate and the critical damage. So she has something, even though it's not ideal. I'm going to go ahead and run this really quick, but those are the only options I'd really consider for today. Like I said, you got some leader and support options in there. Let me run this, and then we'll wrap up the video. So this will be a little bit longer than normal, and I am going to focus a little bit more during this run just to see what this scores. And you know what? Maybe I might go ahead and just edit this and speed up the video. It just takes a long time to do that speed up edit and to get it posted, and I'd rather just get it posted. Besides, you might want to watch. See if I do anything different here. Too far away. That's going to hurt my cancels. All right, there's the 14 million I'm usually used to getting. So, like I said, I could have sworn I can usually do 14 million with her. Maybe it's because the Proxima team does work better. Again, with the random spam, that does seem pretty close. I don't think you're going to make or break your team up by using Proxima or Hela's leadership. And one test is not enough to decide. I usually like to do about 5 runs before I make an official decision. But I do think somebody mentioned that the damage dealt, I think damage dealt is one of the best skills. So maybe it is better even though it's a little bit lower. So I am scoring a little bit more. I'm probably going to stick with using this team. But anyway, there you go. There's a couple of runs. Thank you for sitting through both of them. Hopefully that was helpful or useful in some way, shape, or form. And as always, may your ABX scores be as high as possible. And I'll catch you in the next one.